There's something strange about the women who get close to Tom Cruise. The whirlwind romances, the sudden breakups, and the silence that always follows. Katie Holmes was America's sweetheart until she wasn't. One moment, she was flashing smiles beside Hollywood's biggest star. The next, she was filing for divorce in secret, with full custody of their daughter, and disappearing from the spotlight. But what exactly was she running away from? What really happened in their marriage that was once a Hollywood favorite? And what is it about Cruise's deep ties to Scientology that seems to follow every woman who tries to leave? Tom Cruise's controversial love life. Before the headlines were all about Tom Cruise and Katie Holmes, the Hollywood star already had a long, well-documented history of high-profile romances and marriages that captured the public's attention. As one of the most recognizable faces in the film industry, Cruise's personal life has often been just as talked about as his career, especially when it comes to the women he loved and how those relationships ended. Tom Cruise's rise to fame came quickly. By the mid-1980s, he had already become a household name thanks to standout roles in Risky Business and Top Gun. His clean-cut good looks, intense screen presence, and dedication to his craft made him a fan favorite and a consistent box office draw. But while his career soared, Cruise's personal life was never far from scrutiny, especially when his romantic entanglements began to intersect with his growing involvement in the Church of Scientology. His first marriage was to actress Mimi Rogers, a union that began in 1987. At the time, Rogers was slightly better known than Cruise and had a mature intellectual air that contrasted with Cruise's rising heartthrob image. Interestingly, Rogers is widely reported to have introduced Cruise to Scientology, though neither of them spoke much about this publicly during their marriage. Their relationship ended in 1990, with vague public statements about growing apart. However, the timing of their divorce raised eyebrows due to the fact that Cruise was gaining more popularity, and this led to speculation that there were deeper issues behind their quiet split. But not long after the divorce was finalized, Cruise entered his most famous early relationship with Nicole Kidman. The two met on the set of the 1990 film Days of Thunder and were married by Christmas of 1990. For over a decade, Cruise and Kidman were seen as one of Hollywood's most glamorous and talented power couples. They starred together in high-profile films like Far and Away and Stanley Kubrick's final project, Eyes Wide Shut, a film that some critics described as an eerie mirror to their real-life relationship. But behind the scenes, things were far less perfect. In 2001, Cruise suddenly filed for divorce after nearly 11 years of marriage. The public was shocked, not just by the abruptness, but by how little Kidman seemed to know it was coming. In various interviews following the split, she appeared blindsided, famously saying that the divorce allowed her to wear heels again. But she also revealed hints that she was emotionally devastated. This breakup sparked one of the earliest instances where Scientology's possible role in Cruise's personal life was heavily speculated on. While Kidman rarely spoke publicly about the church, various reports suggested that she had never fully embraced it. In the years following their divorce, multiple former Scientology members and journalists claimed that Kidman had been labeled a suppressive person by the church, a term used to describe individuals seen as obstacles to a Scientologist's spiritual progress. While the Church of Scientology has never confirmed this, the idea that Kidman may have been quietly excommunicated from her family's spiritual life, particularly from her adopted children with Cruise, Isabella, and Connor, remains one of the more chilling rumors associated with their split. Following the end of his marriage to Kidman, Cruise dated several women, but it was his relationship with Penelope Cruz, his Vanilla Sky co-star, that generated the most interest. The pair began dating in 2001 and remained together for nearly 3 years. Their chemistry was obvious, both on-screen and off. Cruz was fresh off her breakout Hollywood roles, and together, she and Cruz made a striking couple. But by 2004, their relationship had ended as abruptly as it had begun. While official statements again cited the usual reasons, like conflicting schedules and growing apart, rumors again emerged that Scientology may have played a part. Various media outlets, citing anonymous sources close to the couple, claimed that Cruz had been unwilling to commit to the Church of Scientology's rigorous lifestyle and demands. Although she never publicly confirmed or denied these claims, the timing of their breakup fueled ongoing speculation. However, in 2006, she later spoke up about the church, but not on a negative note. She said, "I would feel bad for myself if I didn't say that I was grateful to Scientology because of what I've learned about it." Although this seemed like a compliment, it did little to dispel the rumors that had swirled. By the mid-2000s, Cruz was at a curious point in his personal life. Professionally, he was still a dominant force in Hollywood, but privately, he seemed quite lonely. With 2 marriages behind him and another long-term relationship ended, many wondered what kind of partner he was searching for and how much influence Scientology had in shaping those choices. And these questions only intensified as Cruz's next relationship would become his most public, most controversial, and arguably the most emotional chapter of his personal life to date. That relationship was with Katie Holmes, an actress who was younger, newly famous, and seemingly starstruck by Cruz at the beginning. But as the world would soon learn, what started as a whirlwind romance would evolve into something far more complex and ultimately heartbreaking. The whirlwind romance with Katie Holmes. When Tom Cruise and Katie Holmes went public with their relationship in 2005, the media erupted. It was a pairing that no one had quite expected, a world-famous movie star in his early 40s and a fresh-faced actress best known for playing the girl next door on the teen drama Dawson's Creek. Holmes was just 25 years old at the time and had grown up idolizing Cruise, even once telling 17 magazine during her teenage years that she dreamed of marrying him someday, and that seemingly innocent teenage quote would soon feel eerily prophetic. Their romance began under mysterious circumstances. The official story was that the two were introduced by mutual connections in the entertainment industry. However, multiple reports have hinted at something far more orchestrated behind the scenes. According to several former Scientologists and Hollywood insiders, there were claims that the Church of Scientology had taken an active interest in finding Cruz a suitable partner after his breakup with Penelope Cruz. While this narrative has been widely discussed in the media, no definitive proof has ever emerged, and both Cruz and Holmes have remained largely silent on how their relationship truly began. Still, from the moment they appeared together, their relationship took on a life of its own. Within weeks, they were traveling the world, attending red carpets, and giving interviews that felt surreal. The most infamous moment came in May 2005 when Cruz appeared on The Oprah Winfrey Show to promote the film War of the Worlds. But what began as a standard interview quickly spiraled into one of the most talked about pop culture moments of the decade. In front of a live studio audience, Cruz laughed, danced, and then, seemingly overcome with emotion, jumped up and down on Oprah's couch, declaring his love for Katie. He told Oprah he was in love while grinning uncontrollably. It was a moment meant to signal joy, but for many watching, it felt unsettling. That moment immediately went viral, and to date is still considered one of the most viral moments on television. Suddenly, Cruz was no longer just a movie star, he was a public spectacle. But what raised even more eyebrows was the way Holmes began to disappear from the spotlight. She had been a steady presence in independent films and youthful dramas, with a reputation for being thoughtful and ambitious. But after getting together with Cruz, her career slowed dramatically. She signed with a new management team reportedly linked to Cruz's inner circle, and turned down several major roles that could have further elevated her career. Around the same time, her public image began to shift. Once known for her wide smile and approachable charm, Holmes started appearing more polished, more reserved, and noticeably less vocal in interviews. In one particularly telling moment, she gave an interview to W magazine in 2005 where the reporter noted that a Scientology chaperone was present throughout the conversation. Holmes seemed distant, even robotic at times, speaking in vague phrases and smiling silently when asked about her future with Cruz. Despite the growing speculation, Cruise and Holmes moved forward quickly. In April 2006, they welcomed their daughter, Suri Cruise, just 1 year into their relationship. The birth of Suri brought a renewed wave of media attention. Holmes appeared radiant but cautious. Cruise, as always, remained in control of the narrative. Photographers scrambled to capture glimpses of the family, and the mystery around Suri, especially the couple's initial decision to delay releasing any photos, only added to the public's obsession. Later that year, Cruise and Holmes were married in a lavish ceremony at a 15th-century castle in Bracciano, Italy. The event was more than a wedding. It was a global media event. Dozens of celebrities attended, and the ceremony followed traditional Scientology protocols, complete with a Scientologist officiant and several customs that left people confused. The wedding was opulent, picture-perfect, and tightly controlled. Photos from the event were reportedly selected and released to the press in stages, each image curated to show a joyful, harmonious union. Yet, even at the height of the spectacle, whispers of unease were already beginning to surface. Several rumors later claimed that Holmes's parents, who were both devout Catholics, were quietly uncomfortable with the wedding's religious overtones and her new life inside Cruise's world. In the first years of their marriage, Cruise and Holmes made regular public appearances, often accompanied by Suri. They smiled for cameras, spoke about family life, and continued to present the image of a perfectly matched pair. But gradually, the cracks began to show. Holmes, once a vibrant young actress, began to look withdrawn. Her acting roles were sporadic and carefully chosen, often limited to smaller projects or brief stage appearances. She rarely gave interviews, and when she did, her answers were brief and cautious. Cruise, meanwhile, continued to speak passionately about Scientology in public settings, and this further fueled the perception that Holmes was now fully absorbed into his world. By 2011, Holmes had largely vanished from the celebrity spotlight. Her public appearances were minimal, and when she did step out with Cruise, it was usually at carefully managed events, and fans sensed that something had changed. But what many didn't realize at the time was just how much control Tom Cruise's world actually wielded over Katie Holmes's life, and how deeply the teachings, surveillance, and culture of Scientology had embedded themselves in their marriage. What looked like a glamorous partnership on the outside may have been something much more suffocating behind closed doors. The truth about Tom Cruise's Scientology ties. Tom Cruise's relationship with the Church of Scientology is one of the most deeply scrutinized and complex associations in modern Hollywood. It's not merely a matter of religious belief. It's a connection that has shaped his public identity, his personal life, and, according to numerous reports, the way he operates behind the scenes. While Cruise remains one of the most bankable stars in the world, his close relationship with Scientology's leadership and the mystery surrounding it have continued to raise uncomfortable questions. Cruise reportedly first became involved with Scientology in the late 1980s during his marriage to actress Mimi Rogers. Rogers was a practicing Scientologist at the time, and it was through her that Cruise was introduced to the teachings of Ron Hubbard. According to multiple sources, including former high-ranking members of the church, Cruise didn't just adopt the faith quietly. He dove in with full commitment. By the mid-1990s, Tom Cruise had become one of Scientology's most prominent faces. He was frequently seen at church events, often accompanied by David Miscavige, the private and powerful leader of the organization. Their friendship soon became public knowledge, with reports describing Miscavige as Cruise's best friend and frequent travel companion. Cruise was no longer just a member. He was a central figure and an unofficial ambassador, whose fame brought the church a level of visibility it had never enjoyed before. His status within the church reportedly elevated over time. Former Scientologists have described Cruise as being treated like royalty, with entire staff teams allegedly assigned to serve him. These individuals, according to reports, were responsible for everything from maintaining his properties to fulfilling unusual personal requests, all as part of their devotion to the church. One of the most persistent allegations is that the church played a significant role in Cruz's personal relationships. Several ex-members have claimed that the organization actively attempted to manage Cruz's dating life, with potential romantic partners being screened for compatibility, not just with Tom, but with Scientology itself. While these claims have never been confirmed by Cruz or the church, they have been repeated by multiple former insiders, including high-level defectors like Mark Rathbun and Leah Remini. And this backdrop makes it difficult to ignore the possibility that Katie Holmes, like the women before her, stepped into a world where love was interwoven with control. The idea that Cruz's relationships may have been guided or even manipulated by church officials has remained a point of tension, especially after his highly publicized breakups with Nicole Kidman and Penelope Cruz, both of whom reportedly distanced themselves from the church after their splits. But Cruz's connection to Scientology goes deeper than just relationships. Over the years, there have been serious allegations tying him to internal church operations. Some reports even claim that Cruz has benefited from the free labor of church members, known as Sea Org workers, who were allegedly assigned to personal projects involving his homes, cars, and even the remodeling of his private aircraft hangar. While Cruz has never publicly addressed these accusations, former Scientologists insist that such benefits were part of the privilege granted to him due to his status as Scientology's most famous adherent. Perhaps the most disturbing controversy linked to Cruz's ties to Scientology involves the case of Shelley Miscavige, the wife of Scientology leader David Miscavige. Shelley has not been seen in public since 2007, and this has sparked widespread speculation about her whereabouts. Actress and former Scientologist Leah Remini famously filed a missing persons report in 2013, demanding answers. The Los Angeles Police Department eventually stated that they had spoken with Shelley and closed the case, but no public proof or appearance followed, and the mystery continues to haunt the church's public image. Cruz, as Miscavige's close friend, has faced growing scrutiny for his silence on the matter. Critics have questioned why someone so deeply involved in the organization and so close to its leadership has never publicly addressed the controversy surrounding Shelley's disappearance. To many observers, it's not just a silence of omission, it's a silence that speaks volumes. Even in broader Hollywood circles, Cruz's ties to Scientology have been the subject of caution and discomfort. Some celebrities have openly distanced themselves from him, while others have avoided addressing the topic altogether. The church has long maintained a policy of confronting or discrediting those who criticize it, and over the years, high-profile exposés, including the HBO documentary Going Clear, have further pulled back the curtain on the church's inner workings, often placing Cruz at the center of the storm. But what stands out most in all of this is how tightly Cruz's public image has remained aligned with Scientology, despite the mounting controversies. While other celebrities have quietly stepped away from the organization, Cruz has only appeared to lean in more. He continues to attend church events, speak glowingly about its teachings, and surround himself with individuals tied to its upper levels. For those watching from the outside, it becomes difficult to separate Tom Cruise, the actor, from Tom Cruise, the Scientologist. His film career continues to flourish, and his dedication to performing his own stunts and promoting cinematic spectacle remains unparalleled. But the questions about his inner circle, his personal boundaries, and the power dynamics at play behind closed doors have never really gone away. And for Katie Holmes, living inside this tightly controlled and secretive world came with costs that the public couldn't fully see at first. But behind the glamour, the cameras, and the curated image of a Hollywood power couple, she was quietly planning a way out that no one saw coming. Katie's planned escape and divorce. For years, the public watched Tom Cruise and Katie Holmes as a high-profile Hollywood couple, seemingly wrapped in luxury and unified by family. But in June 2012, everything changed. Katie Holmes did something no one, especially not Tom Cruise, saw coming. With calculated precision, she initiated a legal separation that would end their 6-year marriage. The headlines were shocking, and the fans and media were stunned. But most people didn't realize that Katie's move was anything but impulsive. In fact, it was a carefully orchestrated escape that would later be described by legal experts and media outlets as one of the most strategic celebrity divorces in recent memory. Holmes filed for divorce in New York, not California, where she and Cruise had spent much of their time. That choice alone spoke volumes, because New York divorce law is generally more favorable when it comes to maintaining privacy and protecting parental rights. By filing in that jurisdiction, Holmes made it more difficult for Cruise, or anyone affiliated with the Church of Scientology, to take legal or public control of the situation. She wanted autonomy, and she wanted to protect their daughter, Suri. Sources close to the matter revealed that Holmes had gone to extraordinary lengths to keep her plans under wraps. She reportedly used a disposable cell phone to contact divorce attorneys and had begun planning the entire thing in advance. According to several media outlets, Holmes even hired 3 different law firms in 3 different states before deciding which one to proceed with. Every step was meant to avoid detection. She did not inform Cruise beforehand, and when he found out, it was reportedly through the media, just like the rest of the world. This wasn't just a breakup, it was a deeply personal and legal confrontation that centered around one critical issue: their daughter, Suri Cruise. From the very beginning, Holmes made it clear that her priority was Suri's well-being. She sought sole legal custody, a move that raised eyebrows and fueled speculation. Holmes never publicly explained why she was taking such a firm stance, but the implications were clear to those familiar with Cruise's ties to Scientology. There had long been speculation about the role the church would play in Suri's upbringing, and many believed that Holmes was determined to keep her daughter out of that environment. According to multiple reports, Holmes feared that if she didn't act decisively, she could lose the ability to make decisions about Suri's education, religious exposure, and general welfare. And so, she went to court with a singular mission: to take control of her child's future. The legal battle could have become a drawn-out and messy ordeal, but remarkably, within just a few days, the divorce was settled. That speed is almost unheard of in high-profile celebrity separations, especially one involving a child, substantial assets, and a complex religious backdrop. Legal experts pointed out that the fast settlement suggested both parties were eager to avoid a public spectacle, but more importantly, that Holmes had considerable leverage. Though the official settlement details were sealed, several major outcomes were revealed to the public. Holmes received primary custody of Suri, while Cruise was granted generous visitation rights. Holmes and Suri would remain in New York City, and Cruise would continue residing primarily in Los Angeles. Financial details remained confidential, but it's widely believed that Holmes did not pursue a large cash settlement. Instead, she focused entirely on her daughter's custody and freedom from the church's influence. While Cruise maintained a public silence on the matter, the fallout within the Church of Scientology was harder to mask. Former members claimed that Holmes's departure, especially the way she executed it, was seen as a major betrayal. According to statements by ex-Scientologists like Leah Remini, the church's leadership was furious. Not only had Holmes left a prominent Scientologist, but she had done so without any visible struggle, without succumbing to church pressure, and without relinquishing custody of their child. For a group known for its intense control and internal loyalty, this was a blow. Multiple sources later claimed that Holmes may have been labeled a suppressive person, a term used by Scientology to describe those who are considered enemies of the church. If true, this designation would mean that members, including Cruise, would be discouraged, if not outright forbidden, from associating with her. However, Cruise continued to maintain some relationship with Suri, though public sightings together became significantly less frequent after the divorce. In fact, reports emerged over the years suggesting that Cruise had not been photographed with his daughter since 2013, further fueling questions about the ongoing tension between his devotion to Scientology and his personal life. Katie Holmes, for her part, remained largely silent in the immediate aftermath of the divorce. She declined interviews and public comment, but her actions spoke volumes. She enrolled Suri in a Catholic girls' school in Manhattan, a move that many interpreted as a symbolic and very real break from Scientology. Her escape had required immense planning and strength. It wasn't a dramatic confrontation, and there were no public outbursts or televised breakdowns. Instead, Holmes staged one of the most private, effective, and deliberate exits from a marriage that had once seemed larger than life. But leaving Cruz was only the beginning. What came next for Katie Holmes was not just a reinvention, but a quiet, determined effort to reclaim her identity, her career, and her voice. After the divorce, she stepped back into the spotlight, but this time she was calling the shots. Katie Holmes' life after the divorce. After one of the most closely watched celebrity divorces in recent history, Katie Holmes re-emerged not as a tabloid figure, but as a woman determined to write her own narrative. The years following her split from Tom Cruise were not loud or rebellious. Instead, they were marked by quiet resilience, personal reinvention, and a deep focus on motherhood. Professionally, Holmes wasted no time reclaiming her independence. Within a year of her divorce, she returned to the stage, making headlines for her performance in the Broadway production of Dead Accounts. She continued to take on film and television roles, not always in blockbuster projects, but in stories that allowed her more creative control. In interviews, she described feeling more selective and thoughtful about the work she pursued. She also began directing, stepping behind the camera for her 2016 feature, All We Had, a small but ambitious film that showcased her evolving artistic vision. But more than anything, Holmes's post-divorce life centered around raising her daughter, Suri Cruz, away from the intense glare of public scrutiny and far from the shadow of Scientology. She chose to remain in New York City, where she and Suri could live with greater privacy. Suri was enrolled in private Catholic school, and Holmes began to adopt a low-key lifestyle. Their public outings were mostly limited to walks in the park, visits to museums, and the occasional red carpet appearance. Holmes appeared deeply protective of Suri's upbringing, ensuring she had as normal a childhood as possible for someone born into extraordinary circumstances. And while Holmes has never publicly criticized the Church of Scientology, her decisions after the divorce have often been interpreted as deliberate efforts to create distance from it. Former Scientologist Leah Remini, who left the church in 2013, has been vocal about what she believes happened behind the scenes. In her memoir, Troublemaker, and in subsequent interviews, Remini claimed that Holmes once reached out to her and apologized for not speaking up during their time within the church's circles. According to Remini, Holmes's apology was brief but heartfelt. It reportedly acknowledged the pain and alienation that Remini faced during her final years in Scientology. The apology, while private, was widely viewed as a quiet admission that Holmes also regretted certain aspects of her past involvement, and perhaps the silence she had maintained during her time with Cruise. Still, Holmes has never spoken directly about her experiences with Scientology. Multiple entertainment outlets and legal analysts have speculated that this is due to non-disclosure agreements signed during her marriage and divorce settlement. If such agreements exist, then Holmes would be legally barred from making public statements about the church or her former husband. But even in silence, her actions have spoken volumes. By choosing a life grounded in personal freedom, creative autonomy, and protection for her daughter, Katie Holmes has quietly distanced herself from one of the most powerful and controversial forces in Hollywood. She hasn't waged a public war. She hasn't written a tell-all, but she has lived her life on her own terms, and in doing so, has earned widespread respect. What do you think? Did Scientology play a major role in Katie Holmes and Tom Cruise's divorce? Tell us in the comments section below. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to click on the next video on your screen, like this video, and subscribe to our channel for more updates.